The Unknown presents 10 Greatest Porsches Ever Made. Number 10. Porsche 918 Spyder. The 918 Spyder is the most capable and technology impressive road car Porsche has ever put to the pavement. The vehicle all but coined the term hybrid hypercar when it debuted at the 2010 Geneva Motor Show. 2 years before the McLaren P1 and 3 years before the abdominal LaFerrari burst on the scene. In terms of performance, the 980 can do things few vehicles can. Its naturally aspired 4.6 V8 works in concert with two electric motors to produce 887 horsepower and a staggering 944 pound-feet of torque. Flat out, the all-wheel drive hypercar will smash 60 miles an hour in just 2.5 seconds. Yet it remains controlled enough to lap the Nürburgring in 6 minutes and 57 seconds. To this day, it's the third quickest production car to do so. Add the 980's amazingly sculpted body and progressive hybrid tech, and you're left with an awe-inspiring machine, a vehicle magnum opus that will truly stand the test of time. Number 9. Porsche 356. The 918 Spyder is a relatively new car, so for our next entry, let's take it back to the beginning. Porsche founded in 1931. It didn't actually release its first production vehicle until 1948, and the car was the 356. The 356 set a stone for Porsche in more ways than one. It was featured a rear engine design in a pure lightweight package. Does it sound familiar? The two-door established a template for the style as well. The 356's bathtub design themes was still front of center of Porsches being sold today. Multiple variants of the 356 were produced throughout its 7 years lifespan. The most revered is likely the 356 Speedster, late 1950, as its stripped-down performance previewed future specialty models like the 911 GT3. The 356 is an easy one to most collectible Porsches ever. Number 8. Porsche 917. Porsche is one of the most prolific race car manufacturers in history, and the 917 is one of the biggest reasons why. A purpose-built endurance machine, the 917 gave Porsche wins in Daytona, Monza, Spa, Brands Hatch, and Australian Ring and Watkins Glen in 1970, and also scored Porsche's first overall victories at Le Mans in 1970 and 1971. Few race cars has a resume that can compete. The 970's potency came from its ultralight space frame, chassis and incredible flat 12, which was actually the first 12-cylinder engine Porsche built. It initially produced 520 horsepower, but was later turbocharged and tuned for Can-Am racing to make well over 1000 horsepower. That makes it one of the most powerful motorsport athletes of all time. Just as iconic as its professional career was a car appearance in 1971 film Le Mans, which starred none other than Steve McQueen. Several variants of the 917 enjoyed screen time in the movie, including one of the best looking races ever, the blue and orange Gulf Porsche 917K. Porsche 959. And now something completely different. Porsche is primarily known for its dominance on the tarmac, but originally the 959 was made for roads less traveled, essentially a jacked-up 911 with all-wheel drive. The 959 started off life as a Group B rally car designed to conquer Paris-Dakar Rally. After a disappointing debut in 1955, Porsche proved it could get dirty by taking first and second place in 1986. A production variant arrived soon after and for its time. It was one of the most technology advanced cars in the world. Its all-wheel drive system performed incredibly well. In fact, every 911 Turbo come after would feature four-wheel traction. In addition, the sports car were magnesium wheels with run-flat tires, and its 950 horsepower flat 6 engine introduced the brand to sequential turbocharging. The 959 wasn't just one of the most progressive sports car at its time, it was also one of the most expensive. Each of the 300 samples sold for an incredible $225,000, a lot of money in 1980, but it was less than half than what it cost Porsche to make the car. Today they fetch well over $1 million at auction. Number 6. Porsche 911 Carrera RS. One of the most highly sought 911s ever. The 911 Carrera RS is an icon among icons, designed, built to meet motorsport's homological requirement. The Rennsport models were lighter, more powerful and more focused than the 911s at the time, and the car styling reflected its thrill-seeking nature. Generally fitted with a Spartan cabin, stiff suspension and a big brake kit. The 1973 and 1974 Carrera RS was a driver's car through and through, which is partly why they are almost impossible to find. In the last decade, the 911 Carrera RS The value has increased by an unbelievable 699%. According to the Telegraph, the Carrera RS 2.7 represents a best classic car investment over the past 10 years, as variants of the car have fetched nearly 2 million at auction. If there were a Mount Rushmore of classic sports cars, this thing would be on it. Number 5. Porsche 550 Spyder. The 550 Spyder was Porsche's first purpose-built race car, so the vehicle represented Porsche's first steps in a long and storied journey through motorsport. It also saw Porsche returning to Volkswagen Beetle's rear-engine layout in favor of the rear mid-engine setup, on where the 550's flat 4 sat in front of the rear axle and the transmission instead of behind them. This improved balance and agility tremendously, but killed the back seat, much to the chagrin of exactly 0 people. Despite its impeccable performance and looks, the 550 Spyder has a bit of troubled past. Perhaps the most famous example was James Dean, which the actor fatally crashed while on his way to the race in 1955. Today the vehicle is one of the most common kit cars. Number 4. Porsche Carrera GT. If you need an example of how much supercars have changed over the last 10 years, simply compare the 918 Spyder with its ancestor from 2005, the Carrera GT. Both cars are ungodly fast, but while the 918 offers a variety of operating modes, 4-wheel steering and all-wheel drive, the Carrera GT was raw, fitted with rear-wheel drive, manual gearbox and no electronic stability control. The 605 horsepower GT made most 911s look tame, and there was something that demanded respect. Porsche was riding off the success of the 986 Boxster and the Cayenne at the time, so the Carrera GT served as a reminder that Porsche could still build a hardcore driver's car, and that it did. It also made something incredibly beautiful, because the Carrera GT is one of the sexiest automobiles to ever wear a Porsche badge. It's exotic, well proportioned, a wonderful sculpt right down to the rear engine vents and a prominent spoiler, and it fits right in on the bedroom poster next to Ferraris and Lamborghinis. In 2004, the vehicle cost a whopping $448,000. Number 3. Porsche 986 Boxster. The Boxster is often knocked for being the watered-down version of the 911, but it's actually one of the most important cars the company ever released. But simply, Porsche might have been around if it weren't for the 986 Boxster's success in the late 1990s, because the company was facing serious financial troubles at the time. Due to the recent recession and poor sales of the 928, Porsche needed an influx of cash. To get it, the automaker combined classic mid-rear engine layout of the 550 Spyder with a 911 style flat 6 engine and called it the Boxster. The result? A spike in sales that put Porsche back in the green. Without the Boxster, we'd have no Carrera GT, no 918 Spyder, no Cayman and no 911R. So we have a lot to thank Porsche entry-level model for. Number 2. Porsche 928. When the 928 debuted at the 1977 Geneva Motor Show, Porsche purists were appealed. Built as a successor to the 911, the 928 was more of a Grand Tourer than an outright sports car. And to make matters worse, Porsche went and put the engine in the front. How dare they? History was kinder to the vehicle than the community initially thought. Why? Because the 928 is secretly great. The car offered a level of comfort and splendor unavailable in any other Porsche at the time, and it actually had a usable backseat. Would it keep pace with the 911 around the track? Absolutely not. But that wasn't the 928's wheelhouse. It was the car you drove to the circuit, while your Carrera RS 3-liter was in the trailer, and with a 316 horsepower V8 on board, the company's first. Number 1. Porsche 930 911 Turbo. Porsche is the 911, and while the vehicle is still evolving, the addition of the turbocharger in 1975 may go down as the car's biggest watershed moment. The addition of forced induction elevated the 911 to true supercar levels, as it boosted flat 6 made 260 horsepower, almost 90 more than the standard Carrera. Yes, there were plenty of great 911s made before 75, but the 1913, known to the most as the 911 Turbo, offered a level of speed that was unheard of for the time. As with many classic Porsches, the company's first turbo street car was a white-knuckle experience, and had a very low margin of errors in terms of traction, and developed the now infamous tendency of oversteer in liftoff, giving the extreme potency of the turbo's right pedal. Inexperienced drivers lifted off a lot, and caused a heavy tail to swing out and a reputation for rowdiness arise. To tell you the truth, we wouldn't have it any other way.